"Your shirt's unbuttoned again," he said without looking up. "I know," I replied, smiling. "It gets his attention." I wasn't supposed to fall in love with Ethan Walker. He was the kind of man who stared straight through you, ice in his voice, steel in his step, never flinching. A senior analyst at one of the most cutthroat marketing firms in downtown Chicago, Ethan didn't do small talk. He didn't do emotion. And he sure as hell didn't do me, a junior hire with a messy resume and a reputation for being charming. Too charming, some might say. I had a plan. Be sweet, harmless, maybe a little flirty. Let him drop his guard. He'd melt eventually, didn't they all? I mean, no one stays cold forever when you're feeding them your best smiles and your dumbest questions. Except Ethan. Ethan never melted. But what I didn't realize, what no one told me, was that he didn't need to melt. He had been watching. He saw me from the first move, from the very first smirk I gave him across the conference table. And he played along. I remember the first time we were assigned to work late. It was raining outside, the office empty except for the buzzing fluorescence and the occasional sigh from Ethan as he scrolled through campaign data. I had purposely taken longer than needed to finish my part, hoping to steal a few more glances, a few more moments of shared silence. "You keep pretending you don't understand those graphs," he murmured without looking up. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I've seen your numbers. You're good with data. Too good to need this much help." My throat tightened. He still didn't look at me, but I could see it in the way his fingers paused over the keyboard, the smallest flicker of amusement. The bastard was amused. He never had. But instead of pulling back, instead of cutting me off like I feared he would, Ethan started to play. Little things. Letting his hand brush mine when we reached for the same mug. Leaving the office door open when we stayed late, as if daring me to walk in. Dropping lines like, "Your tie's crooked," and fixing it with fingers that lingered just long enough to set my heart on fire. I told myself I still had the upper hand. I told myself I was still in control. But by then, it was already too late. Our third late night was different. He didn't bring work. He just sat on the windowsill, looking out at the lights of the city. "You're not who you pretend to be," he said softly. I froze. "Excuse me? You act clueless. Play the flirt. But you notice everything. You remember what coffee I drink. You adjust your tone depending on who's in the room. You listen." I swallowed, pulse climbing. "That's called being observant." "No," he said, turning to face me finally. "That's called being scared." He stood and walked over, stopping inches from me. "You're hiding." I opened my mouth to reply, but nothing came out, because he wasn't wrong. He raised a hand, slowly, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear like it meant something. "You don't need to pretend with me." Something broke in me then. Maybe it was the weariness of playing a role. Maybe it was the way he saw straight through the act like it was made of glass. Or maybe it was just the fact that no one had ever said that to me before. I kissed him. It was soft at first, hesitant. But when he didn't pull away, when he tilted his head and let out the smallest sigh against my mouth, I kissed him like I meant it. Because I did. It wasn't easy after that. Ethan was careful. At work, nothing changed. We were still Ethan and Liam. He was still the cold professional, and I was still the joker in the bullpen. But after hours, something bloomed between us. Slowly, cautiously. He cooked. I didn't. So he started leaving leftovers in my fridge. I talked too much. He listened too deeply. So I started telling him things I hadn't told anyone. Like how I got into marketing because I didn't want to do law like my father wanted. Like how I had been fired from my last job for standing up for someone I shouldn't have. Like how I hated pretending to be dumb. But sometimes it was the only way to survive. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fix it. He just sat with it. With me. One night, after a particularly stressful meeting where our campaign nearly got torched by a senior VP, I walked into the office kitchen and found Ethan already there, pouring whiskey into 2 coffee mugs. I laughed. "It's not even 6 p.m. He handed me a mug. "Exactly." We drank in silence. Then he said, "You were right to challenge her in that meeting." "Didn't feel like it," I muttered. "She was wrong." And you knew it. That's rare around here. I looked at him. You ever get tired of being so careful all the time? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, all the time. But I have more to lose. He didn't explain what that meant. I didn't ask. But later that night, in the stairwell, I kissed him again, and this time he kissed me back like he needed it. We never really talked about what we were. We didn't label it. But the first time I stayed at his place and he made me coffee in the morning without saying a word, just set it in front of me, hot and black, exactly how I liked it, I knew I was falling. And I hated it, because I knew, deep down, that one day it would end. Maybe I'd mess up. Maybe he'd get cold feet. Maybe someone at work would find out and everything would explode. That day came sooner than I expected. It was during a merger presentation. A new firm, a new board, new eyes everywhere. Ethan and I had been careful always. But someone noticed. Someone made a comment. A VP from the other side said, with a sneer, I hope personal relations aren't clouding professional judgment. Everyone went silent. I felt the blood drain from my face. I looked at Ethan, and he said nothing. Nothing. Just flipped the next slide like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. That night, I packed up my things before he even got back to the apartment. I didn't leave a note. I just vanished. Because I knew what silence meant. I'd lived in it long enough. A week passed. Then two. I moved back into my old place. Ate cereal for dinner. Tried to forget the way his hand felt on the small of my back when no one was looking. And then on a Wednesday, because Ethan always chooses Wednesdays to ruin May, knocked on my door. I opened it, heart in my throat. I didn't speak up, he said, voice hoarse. Because I was afraid they'd use me to destroy you. I blinked. What? They knew about us. They'd been watching. If I admitted anything, they'd fire you. Not me. You. I stared at him. So you let me think. I thought if you hated me, you'd be safe. The air between us was sharp with unsaid things. I don't want to be safe, I whispered. I want you. He stepped in, closed the door behind him. Then let me make it right. And he did. We didn't go back to how it was. It was better. No more hiding. No more pretending. We told HR. We were transparent. Ethan even smiled in meetings now, sometimes. Just for me. The others still whispered. Some stared. But we stopped caring. Because for the first time we were real. And it turned out, the truth was the most seductive thing of all. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.